WIBTA if I don't change my son's name even though it may cause him to lose an inheritance? I, 24, got pregnant while I was taking a gap year traveling. I met an older guy. Nothing gross. I was 19, he was 23. We had fun. I was working in a bar to make money while I explored his city. When I got pregnant, he lost interest really quickly. I understood, but I am pro-choice. And I chose not to terminate. I went home and had my son. I also made sure to get child support. He could afford it. He did fight it though. I had to prove paternity and everything. Through that his parents found out. They are well off. They have met my son and they truly do seem to love him. They have provided gifts for his birthday and Christmas. They helped me with extra money so I could complete my university without going into debt. They have taken us on vacation with them so they could spend time with him. They aren't my biggest fans, but we are cordial to each other. 3 months ago my son's father passed away. He got drunk at his bachelor party, tripped on the sidewalk, and hit his head. And that was all she wrote. My son and I attended the funeral. We spent a week in that city so his grandparents could see him. They approached me with an offer. They had no other children or grandchildren. Their son was only 28, so he had lots of time to provide them legitimate kids. They did not say this, I'm just assuming. So they never thought about my son's name. They said that if I changed his surname to theirs legally they would make him their primary heir. I think this is dumb. He is their only grandchild and they would deny him an inheritance because of his last name? I said I would consider it, to be polite, and have left it at that. I actually have a pretty good life as it is. My family has been very supportive. And because of the whole court thing, my son's father had to have life insurance with him as the beneficiary. Would it be nice for my kid to get a big sum of money? Yes. Do I want him to have the surname of a man who didn't want him? See him, or love him? No. I have been talking to my family about it and a few of them think I'm being an asshole for giving up this kind of money for my son. It is generational wealth and I'm making the decision based on emotion. I think they are assholes for thinking money is the only thing that matters. I think I will tell my son's grandparents that they can talk to him about it when he is 16. He will be old enough to understand the implications but young enough not to be tied professionally to his last name. I get where you are coming from in the sense that you aren't fond of him having a name that is tied to his dad who didn't want anything to do with him. However, I just want to give you some things to think about. His paternal grandparents did want a relationship with him and have helped out. So the last name is also tied to them who do want him in their life. You are looking at the as they will totally deny him an inheritance because of his last name. But they didn't say they would exclude him altogether. They said he would be the primary heir. Maybe that means without the last name that all property will be sold and all money will be split with other family members, charities, etc. But if he has their last name, that all properties and most money would go to him with little splitting of the money to anyone else. You think that you can wait until he is 16, but that's 11-ish years away. What if something happens to them before then? How do you think your son will feel if he doesn't get this and finds out that he could have had generational wealth and never would have to worry about money and all you had to do was simply change his last name? I mean, personally, if someone had told my mom I could get generational wealth as long as she named me dumbass hoe, and my mom didn't and I found out, I would be mad that my mom didn't rename me lol. He's not likely to forgive you when he finds out what he's missed out on. And for just a surname. Yeah, his dad didn't want him. But his grandparents want to involve him as a primary heir. This is a grand move on their part and could change your son's life. WIBTA. F that dude, but also you're kinda screwing your kid by not changing the name. That money is your child's future, and guess what, they'll probably want it regardless of y'all's beef. If they find out, that could also wreck y'all's relationship. WIBTA. What happens if the grandparents pass away before your son turns 16 and can decide? He could lose a very generous inheritance because of your resentment of his father. His grandparents have been kind to both your son and you. Do this for your son. Nah. No matter what you do, you could be considered an AH. But, could you suggest hyphenating the surnames? A. Your primary parents say he should have yours. B. I know that sometimes traveling with a child with a different surname to you can be problematic. Asked for proof that they're your child with birth certificates, etc. So him having your surname would be helpful in those circumstances. And sure, there's other circumstances. C. He still has their surname. D. He can then choose to amend his surname to one or the other when he's 16. Just a thought. Edit was because spacing. They would deny him an inheritance because of his last name? Isn't that what you're doing? WIBTA. And if I ever found out, I wouldn't forgive you. NTA. And I actually admire your choice. But I would propose a middle way by proposing a double name. They were good to you and helped you and your son out. They were there for him and you have a good bond with them. So this could be an easy solution. WIBTA. You're letting your pride get in the way of your son receiving an inheritance. They have no obligation to give your son anything. NTA. I'm surprised that this seems to be the minority view. You're his only caring parent. And that was true even before his father died. It's sort of insulting that the grandparents would only consider leaving the inheritance if he shares their name. It feels as if they only consider him proper family if he shares their name, when ultimately he's their grandchild either way. If they're willing to leave it to him at all, it shouldn't be based on such weird conditions, which immediately tells you it isn't about love or kindness. Not to mention, the fact this is only coming up now suggests they didn't really care before realizing he was going to be their only heir. They were absolutely counting on other grandchildren to come along. Suggest the 16 years of age thing, and also consider if you'd be happy with your son having a double-barreled name with theirs. People are accusing you of putting pride and ego above practicality. Money. But they are putting pride and ego above family. Money isn't everything. If you think you and your own family are comfortable enough that your son will not struggle, then you're all good. You don't need family with strings. If you bend on this, who knows how many other things they are going to push you on, for the good of your son, in the future. Some people on this post seem to think a surname is meaningless, but I disagree, and I think, particularly for women to share their name with their kids, it can be a very significant feeling. Lots are saying your son will never forgive you. If I were your child, as someone who did not grow up with money at all, I would still rather have the name than the money. He's not the first time elitist families put conditions on inheritance. This is the least intrusive they can be doing in the future. Who he marry will probably be in his future. Nah. You have every right to choose your kid's name, and they have every right to give their inheritance to anyone they choose. But if you take their deal, be sure to force them to put all their assets in an irrevocable trust. The same change you change the name. Because I wouldn't trust them an inch not to go back on their word with a will. Would it be nice for my kid to get a big sum of money? Yes. Do I want him to have the surname of a man who didn't want him? See him? Or love him? No. It's the same surname as the grandparents who go out of their way to support you and him too, right? Don't scoff at life-changing money over principle. I think I will tell my son's grandparents that they can talk to him about it when he is 16. He will be old enough to understand the implications but young enough not to be tied professionally to his last name. This is an option, but who knows if that offer will still be on the table when he is 16. God forbid they die unexpectedly and you hadn't met the terms of the deal. You should agree to it. And worst comes to worst, he will change his name back when he is 18. NTA. Don't teach your son he has to change himself at somebody else's whim to be worthy. It also is twisted that they think, here's money with controlling attachments, is a correct way to engage with you and him. Just cause somebody has money doesn't mean they get to control you. I don't think you're an but your son might someday. As a sole parent, having a kid whose name you don't share can be hard. There are constant issues and explanations of identity as to whom the child officially belongs. It sucks. Plus the dad didn't want the kid being pressured into sexist traditions of making your child bear the paternal name to be acceptable also sucks. It harks back to archaic issues of illegitimacy and further demeaning of single mothers. However, this is about the kid's future and his relationship with his father's family. So no one should be deciding this until he is old enough to have a say. NTA. The grandparents should put the money in trust until an age your son will be old enough to make decisions about his own name and adult identity. NTA. I hate when families say total acceptance is contingent on fill in blank. NTA. I think threading slowly makes sense here, as it might end up not being as simple as a name change. As the sole heir to a generational fortune, he might be expected to go to certain schools, pick a certain job, act a certain way, etc. NTA. They are the for tying money to a name. If they want him to have it, they should give it to them regardless of the last name. Suggesting everyone wait until son is old enough to make his own choice is not unreasonable. I would allow for doing it sooner than 16 if the grandparents' health declines faster than that.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicuricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.